Darynda, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be back. I'm so excited.
Well, we always love to have you. And as you could tell from our initial name game, you have a few fans with our group, right?
Thank you.
So I know normally we always kind of start off with how did you get into writing and tell us a bit about yourself, but you've visited us quite often. So I'm going to jump straight into a couple of the series, okay? People can go back and watch our previous videos that are posted. But I love the story of how you actually came up with Sunshine in this entire series. So can you share with the readers the story behind that?
Sure. I feel bad. I always hope my agent never sees these. So I had just finished Charlie, turned in the 13th book. And my agent and I were trying to decide what I was going to do next. And so we had like 2 or 3 phone calls. And I was like, for every phone call, I would prepare all of these because I have literally hundreds of ideas. I'm not lacking in the idea territory, but I was like, okay, what would do well? What is she looking for? You know, all of that sort of thing. And so the first 2 phone calls, I mean, I like pitched everything I had, and we get to the 3rd phone call and I'm still pitching everything. I'm like, okay, because I had a whole new set, like, okay, this is it. And every time I'd pitch something, she'd be like, no, she's like, that's not really what I'm looking for. I like it, but I want to go in a bit of a different direction. And finally, we get to the end and I'm done pitching. I have nothing else. And she says no again. And she's like, well, what else do you have? And I'm just, there's something about this adrenaline rush when you have a panic attack, you know? So I guess I got this rush of adrenaline, and this idea came to me that I had thought of years earlier. And I was like, I've got this idea about this female sheriff in this small town in New Mexico. And the town is a character in itself, all the shenanigans that go on. And she has a teen daughter. And I think of it as like, kind of like a Gilmore Girls relationship, you know, it's super funny. And she's like, oh, that's it. Tell me more about it. Well, that's all I had. I was done. That was it. I was like, oh, okay. And so I had been writing on this yellow notepad, and at the bottom was the name of really lightly was the name of the press who had printed this yellow notepad. And it was something like Sunshine Press or Sunshine Printing. So I said, oh, well, her name is Sunshine. So I pulled a Usual Suspects and I just started looking around the room and I just pitched this whole thing. She loved it. We were calling my editors the next day. We called my editors. They loved it. They bought it right there on one line, and that's all it took.
It's just crazy. And I love it so much because, I mean, who does that happen to? I mean, seriously, right?
Right. I was just like, oh my God, of all the things. But I was thrilled she loved it because I had gone through like, I don't know what else. And it was so funny because I realized about probably 2/3 or 3/4 the way into this that she did not want paranormal, that she wouldn't actually say she didn't want paranormal until almost near the end. And then she was like, you know what, I kind of want to get you out of that. I want to go broader. I want to go wider. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I could have, I mean, it would have saved a lot of time, but that's okay. It turned out really well, and we sold Sunshine, and we just sold another series. So it's going to be another trilogy. Mm-hmm. And along the lines of Sunshine, so it's going to be paranormal, it's a small town, mystery, obviously, comedy, romance.
Same universe, or is it a completely separate?
It's, I mean, contemporary mystery, it's separate.
Okay.
It's not going to have like Sunshine won't be there or anything. It's so a similar premise in the sense. Basically, I have this thing about houses. I've just realized this. I'm writing a novella for an LGBTQ anthology that's coming out. And it starts with a house. And Defiance started with a house. And Sunshine started with a house. Basically, she moved it. And this one starts with a house. I don't know. I have this thing about houses. And in the new series, it's called, right now, this could very well change, but it's called Rumor and Innuendo. And it starts with her inheriting a house from her estranged mother. She's not talked to her mother since she was, in the one digits. And so it goes from there. And she meets the sheriff, and the sheriff is banging everyone in town. And it's just, I think it's going to be fun because, who doesn't like a sheriff that bangs everyone in town?
Exactly, right? Come on. You know your audience, yes. But with that, how is that shift? Because you have written so much in the paranormal world. I mean, we're all familiar with Charlie. I mean, and so many of your other series have those paranormal elements. So now we're, like you said, they weren't really looking for paranormal. And granted, the entire time I was reading A Bad Day for Sunshine, I kept on waiting for that paranormal bit to come back in, or the hint of Charlie and Reyes, which never came. Okay. But what was that like? Of like, you can't just suddenly pull a paranormal aspect into the story.
Exactly. So sadly, I had to really do research. I had to buckle down. I had to do a lot of research, actually, because she was a sheriff. And before that, she was a detective. So she knew her stuff. And I had to really kind of know what I was doing, at least pretend like I knew what I was doing. And so a lot of it was research. A lot of it, especially in the first, is it the first? Yes, it's the first book where they bring in the dogs.
Mhm.
Was it the dogs? No, they brought in the search team. I'm sorry, I'm getting the third. And so they brought in the search team, and I did not realize search and rescue, it was such a complicated process. I thought, oh, you're the sheriff, you just call somebody and they come. It does not work that way. It's such a complicated process. And I read this entire long, almost like a novella on all the steps that you have to take. And it was very interesting. I also have a couple of friends in law enforcement. And then one of my really good friends I went to high school with is actually married to our sheriff here in town. So I would ask her a question and she would ask her husband, and then she would relay it back. And there were actually 2 different times where he's like, you know what, we're just going to have to talk on the phone. I don't get it. So the third book, we talked on the phone for quite a while. And I was like, okay, he has to be shot in the head, but he can't die yet. Can I do that? He can't die just yet. He's going to die soon, but not just yet. And so he told me how I could do that, and where he would be shot. And he was a very good resource.
With that aspect of it too, I mean, and especially again with kind of the originate, or how the story came about. When you're doing that research, I always like to imagine that the authors have all of this planned and you know exactly what's going to happen. But when you're coming from just that spark of an idea, what's it been like in pulling all of that research together and now wrapping up that series?
Right. Yeah. When I first come up with an idea, obviously all writers, you have this little seed, this little tiny thought. What if this happened? What if this female sheriff was a single mom with a teen daughter, and just the town was just crazy. And so that was a big thing for me, but that's what started it. And so I just started thinking, all right, what can happen? So for me, I love mystery, obviously. So I always have to have the mystery. That's a big one. It's usually the first thing I try to come up with. So I come up with a story. I'm a plotter. I plot like crazy. I have friends who aren't. I don't understand how their brains work. We have very different brains. If you took an X-ray, I'm sure you would see very different things on the X-ray. And but I have to know where I'm going, and then I can write and just be happy. As long as I know where I'm going. I know my ending. Usually when I come up with with a book idea, I usually know my ending within 5 minutes. I know how it's going to end. I don't know why.
Oh.
The endings just come to me immediately. And my dogs are wrestling. I'm sorry if you can hear that. But yeah, and so first I come up with the main mystery, and then I come up with some little things. Like I think in the first book was the rooster. There was a rooster missing, and I come up with little things that I can play off of, and that can continue through the whole book, and just like fun asides type things. And I come up with my side characters, which I love. I so much love my side characters. Like I fall in love with them as much as my main characters, and I want to give them their own stories and their own story arcs and all of the things. And but wrapping it up, I will say that this book, I was so hyper focused on the mystery for some reason that I almost feel like I probably did. Some of you may agree. I feel like I did not actually give my side characters their just desserts. You know what I mean? Like I really, there were some things that I wanted to bring out, but I just didn't have time. These books are longer than what I normally write. And so, well, with the second book, it came out to 125,000 words, which I usually write around 95,000 words. Charlie books are around 95. And my editor's like, okay, let's cut about 10,000. I've never had to cut in my life. That's not what I do. Every word is important. So that was interesting. Thankfully, my editor, she was amazing, and she actually went in and cut for me. But the problem was she cut to get all of that out, to get that many words out. She ended up cutting a lot of my jokes. And I was like, wait, what?
See, that's not right.
It's not. I was like,
I mean, you are the queen of smart assery, quite frankly.
I had to go back in. Nope, put that back in, put that back in. But she did cut a lot. And I have had a couple of people tell me that that book was not as funny. So in worrying about that for the third book, I think I just kind of left some stuff out because I was worried she was going to cut my jokes again. So it's such a balance. I was like, and it ended up being, even still a little bit longer. And I thought, oh, she's going to cut a lot, but she didn't. It was pretty good.
Well, I think we all want the extra words. I know you want to have the story tight, but I think that has been the most repeated piece of feedback that I have heard with each of the books in this series is, I can't believe that she ended it like that. When is the next? I want more. She has to write more in this particular world. And I just hear that all over.
I would love to. I gotta say, when they told me a trilogy, I was just like, what? Those exist? Oh, well, it is what it is. Apparently it's a New York thing, and they're getting away from the longer running series. They want trilogies now, or at least they did when I sold Sunshine. There's no telling it. That changes every day, I'm sure. But so we'll see.
And what about incorporating your family into this? Because with Quincy, right, based on your brother, elements of it based on your brother, right? And don't worry, I'm going to get to Netters with the next series, so,
Yes.
so that she can't feel left out, right?
Yes, that was okay. I've learned this lesson twice now. I'm done. I am reformed. I'm not putting my family in my books anymore. I'm done. And I never saw an issue with Quincy. So Quincy, for those who don't know, is based on my brother Quentin. My little brother, who's like this tall. He is the funniest guy. Oh my God, he has the greatest personality. Seriously, everybody falls in love with him the minute. He is like, everywhere you go, he knows somebody there. It's just, he's that person. And well, I didn't think much of it. And then I thought, I think it was the second book where they were, was it the second book or I think it was, I don't even remember. Oh my God, so many books. But they decide they're going to give it a shot. Mm-hmm. I had to write one scene where they kiss. I mean, obviously nothing happens, but that was so much harder to write than I was. never again. And now I'm dealing with it. Now, here's the weird part. Can I bring up Annette, or do you want me to wait?
Go for it. It's a good transition into the next series. Yes.
So I made Annette, my lovely, gorgeous sister, who is my best friend. I made her Defiance's best friend in the Betwixt series. Well, 2 books into this, I thought, you know what? I need to do all 3 Charming sisters, and they need to have their own trilogy. Okay. And I thought, Annette has got to be a Charming sister. So this has got to be something. And then I realized that Annette's going to have a love interest, and there's going to be sexy times, and it's my sister. That I thought, this is going to be the hardest thing. And it actually took me a really long time to even start writing it, because I had such a hard time with Quincy just writing that one little scene. I was like, oh my God, this is so wrong. But when I wrote Annette's first book, it was weird because it was no longer Annette. So in the first 3, she was Defiance's best friend, her bestie, just like, she was my sister though. She was 100% my sister. But when I went to first person and Annette's point of view, she kind of became me as far as the writer me. And so I just wrote her point of view, and it was not as hard as I thought it was going to be. So
Oh, wow.
very surprised by that and happy, because I was worried.
Now with that, and for the first trilogy with Defiance's story, and now with the second trilogy where Annette's the main, have you given real life Annette any level of veto power or additional say so or consulting on this, or is it all a complete surprise to her?
I have all the power. No. She would be like, and I know she'd be like, Darynda, you cannot do that. That is me on that page. Like, no, you can't. I have all the power. She has no say.
Now, for some of our readers that aren't familiar with the Betwixt series, can you give us, again, the history behind that one? Because this is also a different type of story. And I love that it's an older set of heroines also.
Yeah. So what happened with that was a friend of mine, Robin Peterman, who also writes paranormal, who's amazing. And she's so funny. She makes me look like the village idiot. She asked me if I wanted to do this indie thing where we were going to kind of try to start our own genre in a way, called paranormal women's fiction. Now, not saying there haven't been older women in paranormal stories before, but we wanted it to become a thing. So they invited me, and I was the last one, and there's my dogs. Sorry. I was the last one on board. And I had never written anything. Well, I'd written a story for an anthology that was indie, but I didn't have to do anything. So this, I had to do all of the things. I had to come up with the cover design, hire a cover designer, hire editors, learn how to format, learn all of the things. And I wanted to learn it anyway. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. So that's how it came about. But it's really their idea. They wanted older heroines. They had a certain set of guidelines that you had to fit. Older heroines. It didn't have to be funny. I can't remember. Obviously paranormal, that was part of it. Anyway, so yes, Jennifer, I love Robin. And she's like the most amazing person on the planet. Like in real life, she really is. So that was the thing. And I was like, okay, older heroine, what am I going to do? And again, she inherits a house from a town she's never been to, or she thinks. And she learns that she is a witch. But she's not just any witch. She is descended from a line of, they're called charmlings. And they're always, at any given moment, there are 3 charmlings in the world. And they basically protect the other witches. It was their original job. They protect women overall, and the other witches. And that was the premise. And so, yeah, I went from there. I wanted her to be a witch. And she has, her bestie shows up, who is Annette. And it goes from there. And there's hot shapeshifter living in the basement. You
With
know,
a
what
kilt.
more can you ask for? The house is alive, kind of.
And again, it's another series where it's the common feedback I hear is, okay, and when is the next one? People were thrilled that you decided to expand it beyond Defiance and that each one would need to have their own series. But of course, the next question is, so when is the next book? I mean, I love this series. And again, I hear this from so many people. Okay, we need more of this.
Thank you. I have to admit, I was surprised it did so well. I don't know why. I was just over the moon. I couldn't believe people liked it as much as they did. So right now I'm working on that LGBTQ story novella. It's a very short novella. Then I've got the next 1001 Dark Nights story is due. And that one is about Eric, who's one of the motorcycle club guys who helped Charlie. And he was in the last book too. And then it's Moonlight and Magic. What is the third book called? Midnight and Magic, maybe? I don't know. And it's on here. Annette, what's the second book called? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Anyway, then it's next. And then the first rumor book is due. So I'm going to say, based on that timeline, I'm hoping for a June release.
Okay. We're anxiously waiting, Darynda.
Thank you.
And can you also give us an update on some of the page to screen elements? I caught another interview that you did where Sunshine had been optioned, but that fell through. But there was good news with Charlie.
There is, and it's so weird because they have to like give you permission to say, okay, it's sold to such and such company. But yes, Charlie has sold to a very big company. And it could actually, the rights they're actually buying both series and film rights, but it could go anywhere if they did make it. This is the third time she's sold. She sold to CBS, she sold to Warner Brothers. Then CBS had her again for a little while. But this is the third time she's actually sold. So I'm, again, fingers crossed that they do something with it. I'm like, you don't even have to give me an advance. Just do it. Just, you can take that money and put it toward the pilot. So fingers crossed. Yeah, I was really bummed that the Paramount thing fell through because it got really far. It got further in the process than anything. They had written the pilot. They were casting. They had a director for the first one, for the pilot, all of these things. And then it goes to the higher ups and they trash can it. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Meanies. They're just meanies.
We want to stay posted on it because I think it always generates debate, right? As to who should be cast, and you want to see that world make it onto the screen. And then of course we debate, okay, does that actually match what we have in our own mind? So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We readers.
I know, we're just so difficult, aren't we?
Oh my gosh.
Well, I do want to switch over to some of our fresh fiction facts. We always throw those in, but we've talked a lot. So we're only going to have probably a couple of them because I know we've got our readers anxious to go for our after hours happy hour to ask you some questions. So to come up with some that we might not have gotten you with last time. So let's see. What is your most dog-eared or reread book?
Probably there's probably a tie. I have two that I just have to reread about every couple of years. The Duke and I by Julia Quinn. Absolutely one of my favorites. And one, I don't know why I love this book so much, but I love it. But it's not dog-eared because I listened to the audiobook. And it's Envy by Sandra Brown. Sandra Brown is phenomenal. She freaks me out. And for some reason, Envy just, I don't know. And I think part of it is his voice. It's like, oh, his voice. When he does Royce, oh my gosh, it just goes all over me.
I can't argue that. Okay. Yep. Okay. You've been kidnapped. 2 hours later, you are returned because you can't shut up about what?
Oh, BTS. 100% BTS. I will talk to anybody about BTS. I will show you videos. I will give you their life history, how they joined BTS, how old they were, what their family is like. Don't even get me started. Yes.
Yeah, I've got some K-drama stuff for you later too.
Okay, good.
What sucked as a kid, but is awesome now as an adult?
Naps.
Oh gosh, right? Oh, definitely.
Yep.
No, not, yeah.
Yeah.
No need to even expand on that one because yeah, obviously, right? Who was your most interesting house guest?
My most interesting house guest would probably be, oh my gosh. Interesting in terms of just a very, very cool person. So I have one of my assistants is from Puerto Rico. Her name is Dana. And she came and stayed with me for a while. And oh my gosh, she brought the Puerto Rican culture with her. It was the coolest thing. She cooked us Puerto Rican food. She talked to us about all of the Puerto Rican things. It was so cool. And of course now we're dying to go to Puerto Rico, and someday we were actually planning on going this one year, and then the pandemic hit, and we were actually going to surprise her. We were going to try to show up, say surprise, which that wouldn't be stressful at all. But that's probably, I mean, and I've had some really cool house guests, but that's probably, Jacqueline Frank used to come stay with me sometimes, and she hasn't in a while. She's having some health issues, but she's a kooky thing. But yeah, she writes some good books, so she's very interesting.
Since today is February 15th, what has been the most interesting Valentine's Day gift that you've ever received? Well, the first one that pops, I'm so sorry. Can you hear my dogs? It's fine. We always love the puppers. Don't worry. We can hear you fine.
Okay, yes. I had a puppy follow me home from my walk one day. And I mean, I can't just leave it out on the street. So we bring it in and we put it on everywhere. We put it everywhere. And nobody ever claimed this puppy. And he was the cutest thing. And by the time people were like, I want him, I'll take him, I want him, we were in love. So of course we kept the puppy. And so now they wrestle all day. Our dogs are losing weight. I wish it was that easy for me, but I'd wrestle with them all day. The most interesting Valentine's gift was probably, obviously, a chocolate male anatomy part. So that was
okay. Okay, then.
That was not from my husband. That was from a friend as a joke. And
let me turn it around as to what is the most interesting Valentine's gift that you have given.
Oh gosh, I'm so boring. I have no, Annette's so much better at this stuff than I am. And it's weird because my husband and I, 39 years, we're going on 40 years, and we just don't do Valentine's. It's not a thing. I don't know. We did for a while. You know what? I got him a really big Hershey's Kiss. Remember those huge?
Oh, yeah.
I got him that. That's probably the most interesting thing for a kid. I think I got him underwear one year. Yeah, okay. I got him sexy underwear one year. Yeah, that was fun. That was a fun night.
See, at least you didn't come back with, answers like, a vacuum cleaner.
Right. Right.
A new saw blade. You kept with the season. So that's okay. Yes.
My husband's a musician, so I could have gotten him heart-shaped guitar picks. That would have been cute.
Okay. Now, if somebody did surprise you and suddenly looked under your bed, what would they find?
you know what? I probably shouldn't go there. It would be very interesting. Let's just say my husband and I are very attracted to each other.
Again, a great way to end a Valentine's Day theme of questioning. Okay, we can go there. So with that, how can our readers best stay in touch with you and follow what you've got going on, what they should look for next, and basically keep in touch?
Okay. Yeah, just Darynda.com. My stuff is there. I'm on I would say we're probably on Facebook the most. Dana does like Instagram and Twitter and all that. So she keeps everybody pretty up to date. So mostly Facebook and I guess my website probably. Yeah. Next is probably what's coming out is that it's called Pride Not Prejudiced, LGBTQ anthology. And then the 1001 Dark Nights novella with Eric is coming out sometime, maybe June. I'm not sure. I don't think it's June. I think it's later. Dang it. I'm so bad with dates. And then look for Rumor at some point. Rumor and Innuendo will be coming out at some point. And I hope that people like her.
Well, Darynda, thanks again for spending some time with us this evening. And we look forward to seeing the new books released. And the next time you swing through Texas, we always want to see you in person.
Thank you. It's so good seeing you. And you're amazing, Samantha. Thank you.
Now stick around and we'll have some of our questions from our readers, okay?